and welcome to the 6th episode of Recluse Horror. This is a daily horror movie review podcast. With me yet again is Sam.
Hey.
So Sam is tired again. He's very tired.
I'm always tired.
So I'm gonna say thank you, Samuel, for being on here. I let him pick the movie today because I got to have a nap today and he didn't. So the reason why you had to be on the podcast today, Samuel, is, do you remember yesterday when I was talking about my emotional scarring from Jason Schwartzman and you broke in with an unpaid, paid sponsorship for Ghosted?
Yeah, Ghosted.
And I guessed that it was 8 o'clock on Sundays.
Was it?
It's 8:30 on Sundays.
You're always wrong about
everything.
everything.
So close. I was so close.
You're wrong.
I don't have television. I do not own... I own a television, obviously, but I only have, the subscription services. I do not have cable. I haven't had cable in, I don't know, probably upwards of a decade. So, that's magic, I'm assuming. I think I'm magic.
I know you're not.
So, anyway... the movie that we picked today, it's a Stephen King movie. Sometimes They Come Back. It's from, I believe, 1991?
Yeah, 91.
91, okay. So just a heads up about this particular movie. Basically, any synopsis you're going to find online, is going to spoil, it's not really a twist because it happens, you figure it out early enough, but there's no way to talk about this movie in any real capacity without going into it. I'm sorry that I keep picking these movies that, you kind of have to spoil to talk about, because that's... I don't know how that keeps happening. But if you're interested in seeing this and you don't want to hear anything about it, don't look up a synopsis, just, get the movie somehow and watch it.
Yeah, even in the synopsis, even in the,
the IMDb synopsis.
Even in the movie posters.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, it pretty much spoils the movie. Or, not even the movie, just that small part. Yeah. It's really just a small part in the movie.
But it is, the central plot of the movie. So, I mean, it's both. It is something that, yeah, I don't know.
It happens within, the first 10 minutes of the movie.
It's
15
more than
minutes,
that.
Is it?
Yeah, it's more than that. When we went back, it's maybe 20-something, okay. I think. Okay, so sorry. I keep underestimating how long it's going to take to talk about something. If you want to go ahead and skip to about the 32-minute mark. We're in the middle of talking about who we think that the movie will be good for during the 32-minute mark. But yeah, go ahead and skip to around there. And that way you'll, skip all the actual review. And then we get into talking about Stephen King. So go ahead and just skip to there. Okay, so what did you think about this movie? Sometimes They Come Back.
Ghost Greasers.
Ghost Greasers. Yeah, Ghost Greasers.
The movie.
So, basically, this movie, it takes place in the 90s, but it's basically this teacher who's had an incident in Chicago in one of his schools that's made it hard for him to get work, ends up moving back to his hometown where a family tragedy occurred involving greasers. The family ended up leaving the town after this incident, and then he has to move back because it's the only job he can get is in this school for whatever reason, because of the incident in Chicago. So, yeah, Ghost Greasers. What do you think it is about Stephen King and greasers?
He must hate them. They hate him. A mutual hate of each other. But he's definitely afraid of greasers.
He seems like he must be.
There's actually so many Stephen King isms.
There
in
is.
This
I
movie.
was thinking that. Yeah, you could play Stephen King bingo with
and
this.
And
the
greaser one is just so big in this movie.
Yeah.
They're just so vilified.
For those of you, no, they really are. So for those who aren't terribly familiar with Stephen King movies, why don't you go ahead and talk about other movies that have like greasers as
every Stephen King movie has the bad guys are greasers.
One greaser is a bad guy.
I can name movies. You want me to name movies where the bad guys are greasers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stand by Me.
Stand by Me. Yeah. That was the one that immediately came to mind for me.
What other Stephen King movies are there?
Well, there's Cat's Eye. I don't know if there's any greasers in Cat's Eye. There's
any chance there is to be a greaser.
Yeah.
It's taken.
Anytime something takes place in the 50s, 60s. Yeah. So yeah, you can definitely play Stephen King bingo in this. There's a lot of Stephen King-isms. Now, just as a little, personal background on me, I have read a lot of Stephen King. A family friend gave me a huge box when I was younger of books from the thrift store, and I mean, at this point in history, like, Stephen King was what you found in all of those. Now I feel like it's Michael Crichton, maybe, or something like that. But I had a ton of the Stephen King novels. I did actually read, this was based on a short story by Stephen King, and I read the book that it's in. It's in Night Shift, but for some reason I don't remember this story at all. So I really can't speak to how close it is to the novel. I really have no memory at all. I will say that some of the Stephen King adaptations that have come from short stories have been... there's a reason they were short stories. They really shouldn't have been made into feature-length movies. There isn't enough to fill out that time. I didn't really feel like that was the case with this. What did you think?
I don't know. I feel like it was definitely a movie's worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe even, like, perfectly so.
Yeah, I thought so, too.
Like, it's just perfectly enough.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like there was too little, and you didn't feel like you were, like, wishing for more, or they were trying to do more.
It wasn't too jam-packed, which Stephen King often is. Either they have to cut a ton of stuff. Again, like, I've read a lot of the novels, so either they have to cut a lot of the stuff, or they have to, just make up a bunch of stuff. Or they do nothing, and they just pad it all out with B-roll, which is just awful. I hate when they do that. This movie was a made-for-TV movie. Originally, it was intended to be a part of Cat's Eye, but they decided, for whatever reason, to make it its own feature-length. Probably because, like I said, it kind of has enough meat to the story to fill out a length. It doesn't feel very padded. The pacing is actually pretty good for a TV movie, too. It also has a lot of TV movie-isms. There's a lot of, like, there's some underscoring the music that just... classic TV movie stuff. How did you feel about the sets and costumes and everything?
I thought actually the production value, except for the music, was pretty good. I noticed they got a lot of good angles, maybe a little boring. Mm-hmm. They also had a lot of like nice set up shots.
Yeah.
To like primary color walls that made the movie pop a lot more than
a lot of movies from this time.
Yeah, from the time too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this I think the score is really bad. Like, just really generic and like and doesn't fit the tone of the movie.
No, it doesn't.
Great, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, I think that's kind of what I mean by like TV movie music. I feel like that's usually the case. I don't think they spend a whole lot of time on the music. They probably just get somebody who can play piano and slap it together. So the greasers. What did you think about the greasers? The depiction of the greasers.
He had to have some phobia of greasers. Like, greasers had to do something to him or something. It's so insane. Yeah, and not so much as this one movie, just that it always comes up.
Yeah, it does.
It's so weird. But they're like weird and funny. Like, they were pretty good. They were probably the best part of the movie. Mm-hmm. Actually, one of the I think one of the greasers. Do you remember the character Richard Lawson?
Yeah, he was the main greaser.
He was the main greaser. Yeah. He played Tim Shepard in the Outsiders movie.
Oh, I knew I recognized him, and I didn't know
which I thought was like funny.
That is funny, yeah. So he just is typecast as a greaser.
Yeah, in the TV series he plays Tim Shepard.
In the TV series. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was a miniseries or something. I can't remember.
I heard about the Outsiders series. Yeah, I think it just ran for one season.
Yeah. Before the movie. Before the movie.
Oh, see, I didn't know that came out before the movie. I knew that.
I don't know. No, not the Outsiders movie. I don't remember what year that came out. Before. Sometimes.
Yeah, he did the Outsiders before. Sometimes they come back. Yeah. So
I don't know. It's just a weird connection with greasers.
Yeah, a weird greaser connection
and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I liked the greasers. I liked the depiction of the greasers there. There was 3 of them, of the greaser crew, kind of. There's Richard Lawson, who is the main guy. Then there's North, who has this amazing cackle that just, like, it would make me giggle. Like, the more I heard it, the more it would make me giggle. He would just cackle this just, like, crazy laugh that I really liked. It may have even been added in post. I don't know if it was even him, but it was phenomenal. I loved it. And then there was the other one. What was his name? It was something with an L, I think. The blonde one.
Wasn't it Vinny?
Vinny, that's what it is. Yeah, not something with an L. Vinny was the blonde greaser wearing the, like, bowling shirt, and he had this howl that, like, was perfect. I don't think real greasers do most of these things.
Just villain greasers
do. But they were great villain greasers. I thought they were great. I also liked that they weren't wearing exactly the same outfit. Each of them had, like, a variation. Like I said, the main guy wears the stereotypical leather jacket, white shirt, which is Richard. The Vinny wears the bowling shirt, and then what does the other one kind of wears a leather jacket too, I think. But there's another one that's, like, peripherally involved, who wears, like,
he kind of wears like a work shirt, like a work shirt and work jacket type of thing, maybe, which is also which is a lesser known type of greaser. Like, people don't like. Yeah, it was more of like a mechanic look as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. I mean, they're working on cars. You don't want to get your white shirts all dirty. Come on. Like, they're usually depicted as being pretty poor, so how can they afford all these white shirts?
Because they're so evil.
Okay, so there is some opening narration on this one. I know some people don't really like narration, and this particular type of narration actually is the sort that I think people dislike. It's not totally necessary, but it is it's only in the opening, and maybe is it in the closing? I don't even remember it being in the closing.
Not in the same way.
No. Okay. So, yeah, so that's not, that shouldn't be a big problem, I don't think. Just, grin and bear it if it really bugs you. I think good narration can be done, is phenomenal. You look at movies like, A Clockwork Orange, it couldn't be done without narration. At least not well. And, gosh, I know there's other ones. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I think there are instances of good narration or instances where you wouldn't really have a good movie for it. Fight Club. Fight Club would be a really boring movie had it not been for that narration.
Breakfast of Champions was a really boring movie.
Oh, yeah.
Without narration.
Yeah, without narration. Breakfast of Champions is a book by Kurt Vonnegut, which he wrote for himself for his 30th birthday? One of his big, the big 0 birthdays. It was his present to himself. And it is a phenomenal book. It is just incredible. It's hilarious. It's dark. It's great. And they made a movie of it that starred Bruce Willis, and who else was in it?
There's a bunch of people in it, actually. I can't really remember off.
Yeah, it's a pretty good cast, and the movie was awful. The movie was just terrible, and they did do it without narration, I think, because for some reason people think of it as lesser for some reason.
But it makes no sense when it comes from the source, movie, where Kilgore Trout, the main character of Breakfast of Champions, narrates the entire story.
Yeah, the book. In the book, he is narrating, like, he is postulating and stuff, and then things are happening.
It cuts out, like, a third of the book.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a trashy movie. It would be really nice to see them do, like, a new version of it where they realize that you can't cut that. Again, and it's much like Fight Club. If you cut it out, it would just be so incredibly bizarre. Okay, so there's my tirade about people's prejudice.
All right, back to Stephen King-isms.
Stephen King-isms. There are so many Stephen King-isms. I mean, there's the, the family, you gotta protect your family stuff. There's the, what's it called? The can't sleep, won't sleep, can't sleep thing. I don't know. There's a bunch. For some reason, I'm losing
I have a few, but it kind of spoils the movie.
Oh, do they? Okay.
So I don't want to say them.
Yeah.
It's just very Stephen King-y.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even realize this was a Stephen King thing. I just had heard the name around.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's watch it. But yeah, as soon as you get into it, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
This is Stephen King to the T.
Yeah.
Cars.
Yeah,
Racers,
old cars, yeah.
Ghosts.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised it doesn't take place in Maine. I don't think it takes place in Maine. Maybe it does.
I don't know. It's super.
Yeah.
It just feels like a tweak on so many Stephen King movies.
Yeah.
Like, just tweak it a little bit. Yeah. Just give it a little tweak.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's a new one.
Yeah, basically.
But for that same reason, it's that, like, it's kind of good because of that.
Yeah, it is. It feels
kind of like a
tried
and true method.
Yeah,
even if it's just Stephen King's method.
And it feels like it's probably close to the source material because of that stuff.
Yeah,
I can't say for sure because, like I said, I have no memory at all of that story. When I read that it was in Night Shift, I was like, huh, that's weird because I read that. But that's not the sort of Stephen King story that I respond to, so it makes sense that I don't really have any memory of it. It could be good. It's just probably not up my alley. So one of the main problems that I have with a lot of the adaptations of Stephen King's work is that I feel like they don't do a very good job of capturing the mood of the movie the mood of the story they're trying to tell. This one kind of feels like it might do that a little bit better than some of them. Again, I don't have any specific memory, so I can't say for sure. But it really did feel like a Stephen King story. And this one doesn't feel like one where they went too light when it's supposed to be dark, or they didn't build a sense of dread or something. I don't really think they're trying to go for that in this. I don't think the story feels like what they would have gone for in that particular case. So there's that. I mean,
It feels very classic Stephen King.
Yeah.
It's not like too gory, but it's not ungory.
No. Yeah.
It just hits that real medium kind of like horror that
Mm-hmm.
kind of Stephen King does, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's not gore.
Yeah.
But it's not really holding back also at the same time.
Yeah, it's as much gore as it wants to be, and it doesn't do any more to be gratuitous, and it doesn't do any less to try to pander. So, what did you think about the effects, the specific effects?
They were
stylistic.
They're stylistic, not great, but then again, it was a TV movie.
Yeah, they're good for a TV movie.
In 91,
yeah.
And I feel like they did a good job knowing what they could and couldn't do.
Yeah.
And when they do use like special effects,
mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really good and like
it does what it sets out to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think they're utilized really well.
Yeah.
For there's not a ton of special effects shots. That's not
mm-hmm.
really the movie.
Yeah. No, it's not that. And they're like you said, there really isn't a lot of effects, but there doesn't need to be for any reason. The story doesn't require it. So how much PTSD does that lead have?
Like a ton, all of it.
The whole movie feels just, I mean, there's so much, the poor guy is just suffering.
Which is another Stephen King.
It is. People suffering through mental illness without seeking treatment. That's a big, major Stephen King thing. But, I don't know that he feels the same way, but he comes definitely from a background of people who, like, make that feel like it's a weakness to have to seek help about something like that. And a lot of his characters do have that.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah. That's kind of honestly like what a lot of the stuff is about. Either they can't or won't. Mostly won't. So what did you think about the ending?
The ending was good. The ending also was very Stephen King.
It was.
How much can I talk about it?
Let me pause and... Yeah, the thing that Sam wants to talk about is definitely what I would classify as like a genuine spoiler for this. So I thought it felt a little weird. I mean, it definitely feels characteristic. It's very Stephen King for sure. I mean, you can check a few boxes. I couldn't imagine it ending
any other way.
No, for sure. Agreed. Like Stephen King, it would not end any other way. It's sort of the specifics of the dialogue in the end that I thought were a little funny. Like, that they don't really go out of their way to explain why certain things are the way they are. Yeah, I know, you can't talk about it.
Oh, that's how Stephen King rolls, is why.
No, in the books, believe me, it's explained, and it's probably
explained. It's probably over-explained in the book, right?
Yeah. Stephen King does not mince words. I mean, I really feel bad for the people who read abridged copies of Stephen King. So one of the things that I feel like always gets, lost by the wayside here, when they translate Stephen King into film, Stephen King does this sort of thing where he'll build in all of these details that seem completely insignificant and extraneous to the plot, and most of them are. They just build sort of the world and the feeling of what's going on in this particular time, in this particular town, or sometimes not even in the town. Just the sense of the whole world of his stories. And then some of them come back and become significant later on, and some of them don't. If you read an abridged copy of Stephen King, you're really doing yourself a disservice on that level. I understand that there is so much that really could be considered cuttable that you could just remove, and it would have no effect on the rest of the story. It's a character that, lives and dies in a single chapter, but it builds this incredible sense of what he's trying to do, and of the world that these things are taking place in. And I think that's one of the things that makes it really hard to translate to film. People feel like there's this upper limit of how long a movie can be, and that there's a reason for that. And a lot of his novels just are too long for that. Like The Stand, the only good version of it that I have ever seen has been like I think it won awards actually, the sci-fi mini series that they did, because they spent like 8 hours or something on doing that. And The Stand is just it's over 2,000 pages, I think. I've also read the expanded version of it, and it has like an extra 200 or 300 pages, I think. You really miss a lot when you read abridged copies. Of course, that was an expanded edition, so it had extra stuff that didn't even make the final cut. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like because this was a short story, they really were able to get everything that needed to happen across. As far as the ending is concerned, there were some things that were a little funny. There were some things that you couldn't really predict in the way they told the story. But overall, I think it felt, totally classic Stephen King. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I couldn't say anything else about it.
Yeah, I know you wanted to. And you couldn't. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on in this movie?
We talk about the cast a little bit.
Yeah. Why don't you? Sam's really good at that, looking up the cast forward.
I'm super interested in this weird, especially with these older films.
Yeah. A lot of these people have been in a lot of really interesting things.
Weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like the actress that played Kate.
Yeah, one of the students, one of the teacher students.
She went on to just do like a ton of voice work.
Oh, really?
She's Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid.
Oh my goodness, no!
She plays
Sniper Wolf.
She plays Poison Ivy in a lot of the Arkham games.
Awesome. Like the current ones?
Yeah, the current ones.
That's awesome. I'm glad she's
also Sniper Wolf in Twin Snakes. Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
Right. It's the same. I think it's the same performance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so, too. Yeah. It's just a changed-up game. But I was just...
Yeah. I love Sniper Wolf. She's my favorite.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Let me see what the most recentest thing. Oh, she's in Justice 2. She's Poison Ivy as well. Mm-hmm. So cool. She plays a few characters in character in The Old Republic. Mm-hmm. Star Wars Old Republic. Yeah. She does like some Lego stuff.
Did she do KOTOR as well?
I don't see it, but it's like a pretty long list.
Okay.
No, I think it's only Old Republic stuff. She's in one of the Saint Rose games, blah blah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just a lot of stuff. She did a lot of voice work.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad she went on to do stuff because she didn't look terribly familiar, but she was really good. I mean, most of the acting really was, actually. I thought that was another thing that was different from most TV movies, and even most Stephen King movies.
That's why I was kind of questioning whether it was a TV movie.
Yeah.
We didn't know going into it even was a TV movie.
Yeah.
And then...
It became clear when we started hearing weird underscoring.
That was really the thing. And then the lead role...
The lead actor. The lead actor. The teacher. Tim Matheson.
He's been in a ton of TV stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff
You gotta recognize him. If you watched anything, 90s, 80s,
Even
him.
now he's in stuff. Or at least a few years back, like stuff like Burn Notice and CSI
right. Stuff
and
I
like
don't watch.
That's like his whole resume is like stuff like
really?
that. Like
procedural stuff.
Right, like the procedural stuff of the time.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but it was something dumb, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of TV stuff. I know he's in some movies, but most of his credits are TV stuff.
Do you have anything specific other than procedurals?
It's a long list. He was in Drop Dead Fred, which was not a...
No, that's a movie.
I think I think he was the terrible boyfriend in Drop Dead Fred.
Oh, really? Oh,
I
okay.
think, if I'm remembering correct, yes.
You might be right, actually. Drop Dead Fred, that's a movie probably a lot of the people listening to this would enjoy, I think.
But yeah, who else? Also, the Tim Shepard in the Outsiders TV series.
Yeah.
He was in a few good things.
That's the lead greaser.
Yeah. He was in Weird Science.
Oh, really? Was he wasn't one of the kids, was he?
No, he was somebody called Max, but I don't know who that is offhand. I think it's one of the bully guys, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job of that without overplaying it. So it makes sense he would be cast as bully type.
And then he's in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Oh, who is he in that?
He's
one of the kids who gets...
He's Ron. Yeah, I know. I think he dies really fast. I'm pretty sure he is too. And he's also in Thrashing. You don't know Thrashing?
No.
It's because you're not cool.
Is it because I'm not a thrasher? I'm not into thrash metal?
No, it's about skateboarding.
Of course.
He's Tommy Hook in Thrashing.
Okay.
So
somebody out there listening knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they're hyped about it.
Super hyped.
Thrashing's sick.
Yeah.
All right, that's all. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, yeah, the acting, and we hadn't touched on it before, really. I don't think there's anybody who isn't good in it. The child actor does a pretty good job. All of the greasers are pretty good. One of them is a little North, the one who is the cackler, doesn't really, sneer or whatever. He plays it a little maybe too even, considering how over the top the other two are. But the cackling makes up for it. For me.
Yeah, he's pretty much seems like he's checked out.
Yeah,
which
he does
makes
seem
the
like
cackling even funnier.
Yeah, exactly, because he just seems like disconnected.
It's like he's
just
even paying attention, and then he just starts laughing.
Oh my god, there's so much of him where he's like looking around, and you're like, what is he? Yeah,
and then he just starts laughing at the end. I feel like he doesn't even know what's happening.
I think he's got
but
ADD.
It's hilarious.
They didn't know about ADD in the 60s, so
he starts laughing his ass off about it.
Oh man, it's great. But he's not bad, and he's just he's kind of a minor character. He's definitely third banana out of the three of them. The the two, the family members are both pretty good. The wife doesn't really have anything to recommend her. She's fine. She just doesn't really have very many moments to shine, I don't think. But no. She's fine. She does fine in the role. There's never any moments where you don't really believe her, I don't feel like. And then the kids, all of the kids, I liked every one of the teenagers in that class. Mind you, most of them were in their 20s. But,
and in the movie, like, a couple of scenes, or one scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were actually really good.
Yeah, I thought they were really good. All of them. I liked all of them. I liked every one of those kids, actually. Whether you're supposed to like them or hate them, I thought they were both good. Or they were all good. So yeah, I guess, did you have anything else, or?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That was it.
Well, who would you recommend this movie for?
Definitely anybody who's into Stephen King.
Yeah.
If you're into Stephen King at all in an ironic way and you just really like it in general,
yeah.
It's so Stephen King-y.
Yeah.
There's no way you
greasers,
can't. Yeah.
If you have to watch every movie with greasers in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're in a lot of the movie.
Yeah. Even if you just want a pretty, like, straightforward, like horror-esque movie, you know, it's not too, like, heavy on gore or extreme, but not, like childish.
Just middle of the road.
Yeah, but also not childish, you know, or like for, not even for like the kids could watch necessarily. Like, it's not a kid's movie in any way. No, it's
not. No, kids probably, there's definitely a couple scenes that anybody probably under, like, maybe 8 or 7.
Like, I would watch it when I was 8 or 7.
Yeah, me too. We're bad. We're bad. We're bad. Don't compare your experience.
We're bad.
I watched Child's Play when I was 3, so it's a terrible, don't be my parents and don't be me, basically. Otherwise you end up doing a daily horror podcast and wondering about your life choices. No, I love this podcast. I think it's really fun, even though I'm the only one listening to it.
And the thinks it's fun too.
And the thinks it's fun, yeah. I just keep making Sam come back and do more episodes, despite the fact that he's really tired. I'll do it tomorrow. I will do it by myself, unless the movies that we're going over are something I need to have your opinion on. Okay, how about that?
Yeah.
So you'll be on tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding.
I probably will be. But yeah, it's pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Especially for a TV movie, especially for a Stephen King movie.
Yeah. Oh, so many are just kind of lackluster or just feel so wrong.
Put together wrong. I think it's put together really well. It's definitely not the best Stephen King movie, but it's definitely not the worst either. Well, it's no Langoliers.
No, God.
You know, so it's pretty good. In that, if you look at it that way.
Langoliers is its own joke. It's
no Langoliers.
Oh God. Oh my God. My brother, I believe this is Langoliers, I'm pretty sure. My brother for years used to do that thing where he would tear the paper and like make that like exalted face. Like he would do that for months. He did that every time I would like be annoying him or something like that. He would just do that and then I'd forget what I was talking about. Or just when he needed to make me laugh, and it never failed. So anyway, about Stephen King adaptations, so Stephen King's least favorite adaptation of his work, Samuel, do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do. And
I know you know.
Makes me know that Stephen King is playing a big joke on everybody, making the same movie over and over.
Which movie is that, Samuel?
It's like... It's the best movie.
Okay, but which one?
It's The Shining, the best movie. And not the Shining TV movie either.
No, it's not.
With the guy from Wings.
No, not that one. And which I think he liked better. I think he liked...
No, he totally liked that one better.
Or is it a miniseries?
It's a miniseries.
Okay, there's a miniseries of The Shining that is so... I mean, just the clips I've seen from it. Mind you, I haven't seen it, but it does not look very good. There are parts of it that look interesting, but the acting doesn't seem very good, despite the fact that that guy was in a bunch of stuff. He feels a little too over the top in the wrong way, because Jack Nicholson is the most over the top. But the movie, the Stanley Kubrick movie, I think the reason why Stephen King doesn't like it, and I understand this as, you know, somebody who pretends to be a writer now and again, I understand that Stanley Kubrick took the bones of Stephen King's story and completely rearranged it to make his own movie. It doesn't hit the same notes that the book does. It doesn't tell the same story. He's using the plot details to make his own thing. And so it's not his movie. It's not Stephen King's movie. That being said, it is probably the best adaptation of his work that I have seen too. And, you know, it's not my favorite movie. It's not even my favorite horror movie. But I honestly think The Shining is a really incredible movie. And so it seems like there's sort of a disconnect between what fans enjoy, because I think it's probably his most popular movie. Maybe Children of the Corn is probably up there. But can you think of anything else that people liked more? Did people like it more?
Like Pet Sematary.
They do like Pet Sematary.
She's got so much stuff.
Yeah, everything.
I think it's just hard to say. Stand By Me is really popular. It's not even a horror movie.
Well, in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not really counting those. I mean, I guess Stand By Me is close. Stand By Me is close. I really mean the...
I was just saying stuff he did that other people made into something else.
Yeah. But yeah...
I think The Shining is the best one.
Yeah, I kind of think so too. It has mood, it has tone, and it
doesn't feel like Stephen King did it.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like Stephen King did it.
Yeah, and even all those ones, even if they're good. Because I love Children of the Corn.
Oh
it's
my God,
it's hilarious.
What have we seen, 6 of those?
I've seen the first one probably 6 times, and we've seen...
easily.
It's hilarious, but you can still be like, yeah, Stephen, this feels like Stephen King.
It does. Even though that's based on a short story, and I mean, it doesn't have 6 movies worth of material. I think there's 9 of them or something.
I think there's 9 of them.
I think there's 9 of them, and I believe I've seen 6. I've seen up to, like, the Isaac's Return one, and that is very good. I don't know, I liked it. I might have seen one past there, but yeah, I love the Children of the Corn series, but there's no way that it can be very close to the books because it's a short story and you made it into 6 movies. So why can't they do that with The Stand? I really like The Stand. It's one of my favorite Stephen King novels, and it's 2,000 pages. I understand why people don't read it, but it's never been really, again, other than that mini series, it's never really been adapted into anything worthwhile. Which is, again, it's kind of what I feel like about Stephen King in general. Is even the stuff that I think he does like, and even the stuff that I think people do like, don't feel like the novels. I think maybe the closest that I can think of is Misery, where that feels pretty close to the novel. I haven't read every book he's ever done, but I've read a large number of them, and actually I've kind of been thinking about going around and reading those, but I don't have time anymore with doing a daily podcast. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Stephen King, or?
No, I don't. I would never read a Stephen King novel.
I thought you read. Haven't you read?
I read like the first few chapters of The Shining.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was, and this is after I had seen the movie, and I was like, nah.
If you're interested in the differences between Stephen King, specifically, if you're interested in the differences between The Shining, the book, and The Shining, the movie, there's a really good video on YouTube about it. This guy does a series of comparing the books to the movies. Do you remember who that is? It's
called What's the Difference?
What's the Difference, or something like that? I
can't remember the name of the channel.
I'll try to look up the channel and I'll put it in the show notes. But he has some great stuff, and not just the Stephen King thing, but that was one that was really interesting, and it seemed very insightful. I think he had a lot to say. I know this has nothing to do with this movie, and we should move on. But yeah, it's worth noting, and it's a really good series. If you've ever been interested in the differences between an adaptation and its source material, go to his channel. He's got some really great stuff. So yeah, that's the movie that we were doing that I don't even remember the title of. Sometimes They Come Back. That's Sometimes They Come Back. Okay, so I was planning on talking about 3 movies today, but we spent forever talking about
Stephen
King, which is fine because...
It's really not.
Because one of the two movies that I had been planning to talk about that I've already reviewed was Thinner, which is another Stephen King one. It just happened to line up this way that we watched Sometimes They Come Back the same day as I would have been doing Thinner and another movie. So I'm just gonna talk about Thinner. This will just be a Stephen King episode, apparently. Thinner from 1996. So Thinner is a movie based on the Stephen King novel of the same name, as I might have mentioned. It's about a woman that's tragically run down in a car accident by a really well-connected lawyer who happens to have a weight problem. But of course he gets off scot-free, or at least he thinks that he does, until he begins losing weight fast. What did you think about the movie? I know you've seen this one a couple of times, right?
I probably saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably saw it when it came out. It's okay. It's probably one of the earlier Stephen King movies I had seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like it's okay, but it really feels like the 90s in the movie, like everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And not in like a cool nostalgic way either.
Yeah, I feel like there's very little, and this is just a personal thing, I feel like there's very little to be nostalgic about in the 90s, except for,
don't do this to me.
Maybe I just don't appreciate the 90s aesthetic, but flannels and maybe grunge are the only things that I can think of, and I get a little fatigued by grunge, personally.
Don't do this to me.
What are you nostalgic from?
The 90s?
Yeah. What makes you nostalgic?
Fighting games?
Oh, fight games. That's true. Yeah.
That's about it.
Just fight games.
Fighting games were big. I was there.
Unfortunately, I wasn't there in the streets on that one.
You'll be in the streets. They'll be everywhere.
Anyway, so yeah. But did you like it or?
No, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
But even this movie in its own weird way is kind of nostalgic / Stephen King-y.
Uh-huh.
So it kind of...
It's a little different from some of the...
It is. It's actually very different from some of the very Stephen King-esque movies, and I kind of wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
But in the same way, it still is... Has a lot of Stephen King stuff. It still has plenty of
Stephen King-isms. Yeah.
But it actually feels a lot like Tales from the Crypt episode.
It does. I hadn't really thought about that.
And I don't know why that is. I have no idea why it feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that also adds to my nostalgia for the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Is Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
So...
That's true.
So shut up.
Tales from the Crypt is incredible. It was my favorite show.
So shut up about the 90s over here.
When I was little.
They were great.
I was in love with the Crypt Keeper. I legitimately wanted to marry him when I was a kid.
The director directed a couple episodes of Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't tell you which ones, but...
Yeah. So I honestly, as far as, like I said, there have been plenty of really bad Stephen King adaptations. As far as Stephen King adaptations go, I felt like this was not the worst. I read the novel. I've actually read this novel a couple of times. It's been many years since I've read it, but I actually have a very clear memory of this one. And that's going to definitely color my opinion of certain details about the movie. For one thing, the biggest thing I think that this affected for me personally is the pacing. My feelings about the pacing were that it felt like it was jumping around a lot, but I think a lot of that is just because I know what scenes were cut from the book. Having read it, this was the one, I think I read Misery twice, and I read this one maybe 3 or 4 times. I got to this point where, I had nothing else left to read. And I do like Stephen King. I think... Again, I love the way he builds stuff. Don't shake your head at me, sir. I like Stephen King. I don't care.
You're losing the listeners with that.
I don't care.
People are turning off their computers, just plugging it right out of the wall, and ripping the batteries out of their laptops, throwing their phones. to likes because you're like, I like Stephen King.
I do. I like Stephen King.
He's misunderstood, probably.
Okay, well, I'm not talking about on that level.
He's probably really misunderstood artist.
I think I really appreciate his work. He does a very good job of building mood. And he doesn't really copy anybody else's mood except for his own, which,
we talked about
with the Stephen King bingo, which is fine. It's his style. He manufactured it. I think it's great. Thinner was originally also published under a different name because he wanted to, Richard Bachman, I think. And he wanted to try to separate it. I believe that was Thinner anyway. He was trying in some way to separate it to see how his books would do in a vacuum, I think. Or just, didn't want it to be compared to his other stuff. But yeah, it definitely made the pacing feel really funny to me because I know what scenes were cut and like what things were, sort of molded into some other weird thing. What did you feel about the pacing? Do you have any memory of the pacing?
I remember a little bit. It's a little feels a little disjointed, things the pacing in the beginning is really good because it pretty much just starts. The movie starts really fast.
It does, yeah.
And I think that's what ruins the pacing because it doesn't end really fast. A lot of stuff happens, a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Until there's a conclusion. So it does feel weird, especially towards the end.
Okay.
Just this and that happens, this and that, and then this happens, and then
right.
So it's kind of weird that way.
I did feel like, like I said, there's a lot that you can cut from Stephen King to make, to cut yourself down to a 90-minute movie. I don't remember how long this movie is. But I did feel like the stuff that they cut was probably the better things most of the time. So that's really a positive. If you've read the book, if you have a strong memory of the book, this is still going to feel weird, but you'll probably also agree, okay, I understand why they cut this. This really didn't necessarily have to be in here, but it did make it feel like there were a lot of time jumps, and that was sort of on the negative scale. So, let me see. What did you think about the prosthetics?
They're bad.
They're bad. The makeup and the prosthetics in this movie. Okay, so the movie is about him losing weight very rapidly. From going from a very rounded human being to a very thinner human being. And so that's the crux of this movie. The body horror of seeing somebody coming from being morbidly obese to being just skin and bones. So if you do that wrong, you fucked up your movie. Is that not right?
You spend a lot of time with them too. In broad daylight.
Yeah.
There's no hiding them.
No.
In the context of the movie.
I mean, they're barely better than Mad TV level of care put into the fat suit that they put him in.
It's not great.
If you can't make it look legitimate, and this is something that I really think in the 90s you couldn't do. I think it could have been done much better than it was, but in 1996 I don't think we had the capability of doing this the right way. I think we could now, which is exciting to me because maybe they'll remake it, at some point, but as it stands right now, at this period, they still could have done better. I've seen plenty of better prosthetics. I've seen much better makeup out of this era. So that was really disappointing to me. Even knowing, I knew what era this movie came out of. I had seen, maybe clips of this, I think, before.
It could also play, the prosthetics they had could also play in maybe a different, a different movie, a different, themed movie or feeling movie. Just the tone and the feel of this movie, it really clashed.
Yeah.
The way the prosthetics looked and so on, just because they're very outlandish, they're not realistic.
Yeah. It was so important. And it's not just the prosthetics either. The makeup that he's wearing.
Yeah.
Is really bad as well. I mean, really bad. And this is something, this could have been done, 70 years earlier, before the movie was around, before the book was around, before Stephen King was around. the makeup could have been done better. It looks worse than stage. I've seen stage makeup up close. I understand what it looks like when you really get up there, and this is worse than most stage makeup for like ghosts and goblins and ghouls and whatever. I mean, it just looks terrible. Like there's no explanation. There's no explanation for that level of mishandling, I guess. Like, you should have hired a good makeup person. And maybe they were, and maybe they told them, no, put more stuff on it, it's not gonna read. I don't know. Sometimes people interfere. But yeah, just all around, like, every version of this body horror that they were doing was just completely screwed over. It's disappointing. Do you remember anything about the actor? The lead actor in this?
Like, about him or about his acting?
His performance.
Yeah, I remember a little bit about it.
How did you feel about his acting?
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's terrible. Okay. Robert John Burke plays him, who was, apparently he was RoboCop in the third RoboCop movie.
The worst RoboCop.
Yeah, I didn't. I've actually not seen the RoboCop movies. I think I've
it
seen
should be
part
the
of
best
the
one because there's jetpacks and ninjas and splatterpunks.
Oh man, splatterpunks!
But it's not.
Oh, I like splatterpunks.
And that bums me out every time. So.
Yeah, that is really disappointing. Actually, now I'm a little bit. That made me a little bit sad, and I've never really.
See how hardened I was when you brought it up. Really had a gold mine.
You've grown cold.
Yeah, really had a gold mine, and they just
threw it away. They threw it away.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
I know him from stuff. He hasn't been in a bunch of big stuff.
But he has been in stuff, and I think he's usually better than this.
I actually, from what I remember his performances, he seems very checked out in this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe that has to do with the role he's trying to do.
Or he's really annoyed about the hours it takes to get into this terrible costume.
Yeah,
and he knows it looks
probably.
awful.
He's almost always in makeup in this.
Yeah.
He seems very checked out, especially compared to... Like, I've seen him in stuff. He's in stuff, but nothing I can recall.
Is RoboCop's performance good in RoboCop 3?
No, it's not. The whole thing's boring. The whole thing's incredibly boring.
That's too bad.
He was in Tombstone. Mm-hmm. He was was he Frank?
McLaurie.
Yeah, I can't remember who that character is. If he was bad, I probably would have remembered. He was in Copland for a minute. He's been in stuff. He's more of a character actor.
I know I've seen him. I can't. I'm sure I looked for anything in his, because I looked up that he was in that RoboCop movie. I'm sure I looked to see if I knew him from anything specific. I definitely recognize his face, and I don't know where from.
I've seen him in a bunch of these movies. I just can't particularly remember his role. Mm-hmm. But I don't ever remember, like, oh, this guy's, like, ruining this movie. He's bad.
Right, yeah.
But I definitely remember his acting in Thinner, and he's just like, he just seems pissed.
Well, and that part of it actually does fall somewhat in line with
especially when he's losing weight.
By the end of it, yeah.
But even before that, he seems very checked out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that part works really well when he is losing weight and he is like
he does like if I remember, he understands, like, he recognizes that he's sort of putting on a front and he's trying to be tough or whatever. I'm not positive about that, but I'm pretty sure he sort of does that towards the end of the book when it starts getting really dire. The thing that got me was his facial expressions are distractingly bad, and I have an idea that this might have something to do with the facial prosthetics, but it can't all be up to that because he's by the end, when he's starting to lose weight, he's losing these prosthetic pieces, so it shouldn't last through the whole movie. So I don't know. All I know is that you shouldn't be smiling when you're terrified or angry or in pain, and a lot of that there was a lot of that happening. A lot of the other actors aren't super great either, but they're passable for cut rate horror, I felt like. Except Joe Mantegna. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name.
That's how people usually do.
I fucking love him.
I don't think that's right, but that's how most people usually do pronounce it.
I love him, and he is really good in this role. He plays I won't say who it is, but he's a supporting character, and he does a really great job I think he really
seems so insane. He's so good.
He's so good. He is. Yeah.
He's the reason to probably watch the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not a terribly small part. It does take a little bit for him to get there.
You could be more of him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could watch a whole movie of him just... I mean, it would be a different sort of movie, by, you know, genre-wise, it would be a different movie. But he's so good. I love Joe Mantegna. He's what's the guy's name?
He's a bunch of guys.
From Airheads.
He's the disc jockey. I can't remember his name.
The cool disc jockey, not the...
He was in Godfather Part 3.
He's in a bunch of crime drama stuff.
He's Fat Tony on The Simpsons.
Oh right,
he's been in so many things.
Yeah, he's incredible. I've never seen him in anything that I didn't like. At least him. I might not have liked the movie. I might not have liked the TV show or whatever. But yeah, he's great, and this is no exception. I thought he was really fantastic. There is another supporting character in this. Do you remember who I might be thinking of?
No, what are you talking about?
Stephen King is the pharmacist.
Yeah, Stephen King is in this one, right?
He's no worse than any of the rest of the cast. I thought he was fine. I think I've seen him act in a couple of things before. I think he's usually okay. He just isn't, you know, they don't give him huge parts where he needs to be, you know.
I like what was it, the granddaughter role?
Yeah. I thought she was okay.
She didn't do much, but the stuff they had her do was like either pretty funny or like pretty like ridiculous slash like it would make somebody mad.
Right. Yeah.
Like it was very genuinely.
Yeah, she's trying to like provoke.
Yeah, very provoking. Like to like make somebody angry.
Yeah.
And it comes off really well.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that would probably piss somebody off right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's a dick.
Yeah, exactly. I believe that role of her being a dick. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Nailed it.
You know, all in all, I thought it was a fairly watchable movie. I know that we didn't really say a lot of positives. I don't know why, but I think it's okay. As far as Stephen King adaptations go, I've seen so much worse. So if you want to like Stephen King, if you want to see Stephen King movies, this is not the worst you can do. The prosthetics really take away a lot of the horror. And unfortunately, a lot of the scenes that they do cut, although they do make sense to cut from a story perspective, they do take away a lot of the mood building. And a lot of it, you know, takes away from that gradual descent. It's funny that a book can get across body horror, but Thinner does it very well. It really does. It goes into very detail about, you know, the side effects of what's happening from when he's losing weight. Which I feel like even in the movie they didn't go, you know, his you know, they didn't talk about his balance going away or you know, anything like that. I don't remember if that's specifically a thing that they mentioned, but there's plenty that they mention of side effects there. The lighting in the movie I noted was very bright, and I do remember that, and really has no artistry. It's really they're lighting it so you can see it, and honestly it's better than the Sinister method. Yeah. You know, of like trying to make it creepy by not lighting it. But it doesn't work if you can't see what you're doing. Yeah. So, the emotions that most of the characters are going through do seem pretty disingenuous. So you can't really put yourself into their skin, with the exception of like Joe Mantegna.
Yeah, right.
Which
he's so good. It's so enjoyable to watch him.
Like, yeah. Maybe that's why I thought it was like a watchable movie. It's just his performance.
Yeah, he's very good. Yeah. He also gives it that same like. Tales from the Crypt feel.
Yeah, has he been in a couple of those?
I think I don't know if he has or not.
He feels like he should have been.
But it's still that like sarcastic horror weirdness, yeah.
Yeah, his character is great. It does feel very Tales from the Crypt, his
character. Can we talk about the director?
Sure.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, okay.
He directed Fright Night.
Oh, but that was great.
Fright Night was great. It directed well. He directed the first Child's Play.
Oh man,
which is also really good.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
He directed 3 episodes. It says of Tales from the Crypt. I don't know which ones. Yeah. Which is probably why this feels like it. And he also directed some of the episodes of The Langoliers.
Oh God.
Bringing it back to The Langoliers.
So this guy basically just relies on his. I mean, I don't know that this is true. I mean, some of that stuff is too good. But I mean, when I see a resume like this, I see like they had good cinematographers, they had good, whatever, other people.
Good writing, good,
good writing, and, well, I mean, Thinner is good writing. They just didn't have the resources. They were trying to make a movie in 96. It couldn't be made in 96. Well, shut up, okay? I like Stephen King. But yeah, no, it seems like maybe if he doesn't have good help, he can't do something. That's the only thing I think of
he's just out there polishing turds. So what are you talking about?
Okay, was there anything else on there that you wanted?
I just wanted to talk about the Langoliers again because it makes me laugh. Look up a monster from the Langoliers if you want to laugh because it's hilarious.
Yeah, again, they were trying to make a movie you could make in that year. That's all the thing. It's just the anachronism. He's trying to be too avant-garde, and you just can't, if you don't have the resources, you can't make the movie. You couldn't do it at that time. So personally, as I've probably alluded to about 15 times, I would love to see this movie redone. Here's the directors that I listed when I was doing this. Somebody like Joss Whedon, David Fincher, if he was getting back to his good stuff, Darren Aronofsky, or maybe even something out of left field like Takashi Miike or Richard Bates Jr. Sam, Richard Bates Jr.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's super good.
Incredible.
Well, I didn't like Trash Fire, but...
well, yeah, Trash Fire was a trash fire.
Yeah, it was okay, but it was definitely... I liked all the other stuff. It was the
lesser of it, yeah. Mm-hmm, for sure. Which sucks. I was really looking forward to that. Anyway, I think if this was given a longer runtime, and obviously the modern techniques that we can now use a little better, the CG and even better prosthetics. I mean, they had the prosthetics then. I'm just never going to get over that. They had better prosthetics then. But I think it would really, you have to be able to show the character's transformation for this movie to really land. The storytelling, the pacing, all that stuff is so much less important than that. Otherwise, you lose the central point of your horror. So yeah, I would love to see this redone. I know none of those people that I just mentioned are, listening to this podcast, would ever do that movie. Especially, I don't know if that movie was very well received. I've heard good and bad things from other people that I know who've seen it. So maybe it got mixed reviews. But yeah, it would never. I really just hope somebody redoes it though. Maybe it'll have to be one of those things where, like, as soon as Stephen King dies, somebody will pick up all the rights and do a ton of more remakes of stuff and try to do it quote unquote right. But the only way really to do Stephen King right is, for most of the stories anyway, is to do 8.5-hour movies, and that's just not gonna happen.
I disagree. I think Thinner is kind of a story that feels stretched out.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like it's just not about a ton.
No.
And maybe the book is, I didn't read the short story, right? It's a short story?
No, it's a
whole
full
book.
novel.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a full novel.
And
it's one of his shorter novels.
I just don't feel like there's a ton more I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
In
hearing about?
In hearing about. And, that could be because they didn't present it in a certain way. But from what the movie shows... it seems like too long. Yeah, it seems it seems like a 45-minute story on screen.
I can explain off air when we're finished here some of the reasons. This stuff is a little bit too much of spoilers, but there definitely is enough material in there to make like a feature length or even slightly longer. Like 2 hours.
Yeah. There's more stuff in the I assumed.
But really the thing that the reason why it's not getting across is because you're not seeing a very good gradual body,
Yeah, it's a big part of it. It's a big part of it. Because they're big jumps in the movie.
They're huge jumps. He does. He loses like 60 pounds off screen sometimes. And,
and they either say it's been this long or that long, but it doesn't seem... the time space doesn't seem right.
You see him lose like every pound towards the end, and it's without that transition being made very obviously, and without again going into all of the details of stuff, and I think they glossed over a lot that really shouldn't have been glossed over. So yeah, but I honestly believe you could make a much longer movie of this that's really meaty. But you need to have that body transformation. Did you have anything else that you want to say about Stephen King, Thinner?
No.
Okay. I apologize for the length of this one. I like talking about Stephen King. I'm a fan. So Shut your stupid mouth, Samuel. I like Stephen King novels. Stephen King adaptations make me cry a little bit sometimes. But honestly, like I said, Joe Mantegna's performance almost makes this worthwhile. And if you like Stephen King, watch this. Is there anybody else that you can think of who would like this one? If you really like cheesy, prosthetics.
Yeah, if you like that 90s, like horror stuff, like Night Gallery and Tales from the Crypt in the 90s, Outer Limits. It's basically like one of those stories. It's just a little bit longer. Yeah. Which is the biggest problem I have with it. And it's not as great as the great episodes of that, but it's as good as the medium ones are. Right. So it's a good watch in that way. Like I enjoyed watching it again. Like. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess that's our show. Thank you for listening. I apologize that this one's even longer than usual. I've kind of been thinking about switching to doing only one of the other reviews because all of these are longer than I want them to be. I'm wanting these to be more like 35, 40 minutes, and they are just...
So that if there's one person that listens to this, let us know.
Yeah.
How long you want them to be.
Yeah, and we'll try to cater to that need.
To that one person.
To the one person.
That one person decides.
The one person decides. So whoever emails me before tomorrow, that's how long this episode... Forever, in perpetuity. No, not really, but yeah, I mean, if anybody has any input about whether they think these are too long or whether you're fine with the length or whatever. If you're listening to it daily, it's not a problem. The problem is I'm going to have a back catalog and it's going to be 35 billion hours, and that's kind of what I'm, not going for as far as time is concerned. But anyway, so yeah, thank you for listening. You can email me at reclusehorror@gmail.com. Let me know any comments or anything that you want. I'm on YouTube. I am on Twitter, Facebook. All of them is Recluse Horror. I'm also on Instagram, but I don't do Instagram, so it's kind of pointless to go on there. At this point, at least. Yeah, thanks for listening. I don't really know what else to say other than that. Please reach out. Please share this with people if you think they'll enjoy it. There's links on YouTube. I know a lot of people prefer to share YouTube because it's hard to share something off of iTunes or something unless you're just grab their phone or something. So you can always send them to YouTube, and then if they like it, they can subscribe through Stitcher or iTunes or wherever. Yeah, Sam.
I give Thinner 1,990 stars. Cowabunga.
Really? Why?
1,990 stars.
It was made in 1996.
But it was for the 90s.
It was for the 90s.
It's for the whole 90s.
It's for the whole 90s. Okay.
That's my score for the whole 90s.
Extra 90s. Okay. Have a great night.